welcome to another episode of the Edmonds Moms Room podcast. We are so delighted today to have a very special guest. We have Kim Johansson, certified nurse midwife and nurse practitioner of Empowered Pregnancy, which is a birth center here in Kirkland. So welcome.
Thank
We're
you.
So honored that you would take the time to even do this.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your birth center, about yourself.
I am a certified nurse midwife, and I've been doing women's health for almost 25 years, and I'm approaching my 16th year as a midwife.
Wow.
And I've been in the hospital for all that time, so 3 years ago, I decided it's always been my dream to have a birth center, and I've just, using birth centers and the statistics and research show that they're a perfect place for most moms to have babies, and so I went for it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes.
Cool. Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
And welcome to the community.
Thank you.
We have so many patients that benefit from birthing in a birth center or birthing in their home. And so I think it's a great option for people who qualify to birth with you. And
it is. And so many people don't realize that that is an option out there or that it's actually safe. Mm-hmm. And that's, for a lot of women, it can be even safer than in a hospital to choose to deliver in a birth center or an out-of-hospital setting.
Yeah. How did you get started?
I got started as I literally went to nursing school to be a doctor. And I found out as I was in nursing school, I liked the education and I liked the patient interaction of a nurse better than medicine. So there's a lot of education. You really get to know your patients. But I couldn't really find anything I liked until I had my first child. And I'm like, I want to be a labor and delivery nurse. And then I had my second child with a midwife. And then I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do with the rest of my life, because it made such a powerful impact from the difference of having had an amazing doctor the first time. But it was very medical. And it was just amazing the difference between the two experiences.
Yeah. And we hear that so much from all of our patients, especially patients who want to have a VBAC or,
right.
Patients who had interventions they didn't desire their first time around. And so
exactly,
they come here wanting to prepare for their birth center birth or their home birth just to try to avoid the interventions.
Exactly. And I don't think people sometimes understand they can say no to certain things, or they're not educated enough to tell them why they're saying no. And so I find that in the healthcare system, we are really good about giving so-called quotation informed consent to make the patient pick the option we want them to pick and make them think it's their own. So a really big part of my clinic is shared decision making. I feel that the biggest part of my job is to give you information, to tell you about the research, tell you what the pros and cons of all your options are, and then let you pick. Even if for some reason you would go to the hospital, like a recent client of mine just did, they didn't need a C-section, but they needed to be in the hospital, and they were informed that unless X, Y, or Z happens, she's safe to labor. And she made a vaginal delivery.
Awesome.
So, that's why we're Empowered Pregnancy, because I feel knowledge is power.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. So I guess backtracking here, I love that you do that, because I think so many women just, and I the first time around, don't have that power.
Exactly.
And so to get that, I think, from your whole birth team and in the midwife, you as a midwife have that authority to tell people that it's okay to make their own decision, and here's how you go about doing that. I think that's really powerful. It's not undermining the power of having a doula. I think the doula could be a great advocate, but I think when it comes from your healthcare provider itself, it just adds another layer of security.
And the fact that we take the time to inform them that this is what you can tell them. If they say, no, you can't do that, you can say, yes, I can, and this is why I can. Or people, their moms or their sisters or their best friend may say, are you crazy being out of hospital? And we can arm them, say, this is what you tell them. This is what the statistics are. And so we actually give them scientific data to back up their decisions, which is where most people lack. They go into having babies, or they go into the hospital not knowing anything other than what they see on TV. And so we put so much faith in the healthcare community that they're going to do what's best for us. And that's not how things are happening out there all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's great to hear. So what makes you... Let me back up.
Okay.
You guys got this special certification.
Right.
Will you tell us a little bit about that and then how that separates you?
What we got is, back in December, we became nationally certified for the American Birth Center Certificate Association, which was amazing because we did it in our first 6 months. When people have, the state of Washington says to be a birth center in the state of Washington, you have to meet certain safety and certain criteria. The national certification is way above that. So it says we took the time to make sure our policies and procedures and our safety methods we have in place, our protocols, our training, go way above and beyond, where the research shows that a nationally certified birth center attended by a nurse midwife is just as safe, if not safer, for a healthy population of women than actually delivering in the hospital now. So I wanted to have that to show that we are a safe alternative. And actually, for a lot of women, we're safer if you consider all the things that can happen during a C-section. And most birth centers, the C-section rate is 4 to 6%, with actually better outcome for moms and babies than in a hospital, where you have a 34% C-section rate. So this certificate basically says, I can give you a great outcome, and your risk of a C-section walking through my doors is only about 4%.
Yeah, which then therefore lowers maternal mortality.
Right.
And enhances recovery and all the things.
And if we look at all the new epidemiological studies about babies and the bacterial and the biome of the vagina that we did not realize was there, and if we can look at C-sections actually affect the baby's health, not right at birth, but also later on in their lives, we're finding obesity and diabetes and asthma and leukemia and autoimmune diseases are so much higher in babies that were C-sectioned, and we can trace it back now to that seeding of the internal and the gut from the vaginal bacteria that they don't get during C-sections.
Wow. Okay, so I've heard that before, and I've read a little bit on it, but just for the listener who doesn't know what you're talking about, will you give a little recap about why that's beneficial?
What we are and kind of go back, when I first started this 25 years ago, we gave a baby a bath within the first 2 hours because we thought, oh my God, there's all this bacteria and all these germs and we have to bathe the baby. And now we're finding that we shouldn't bathe the baby within the first 48 hours unless mom has some type of infection, because there are certain bacteria in the vagina that are nowhere else on the body. And we're finding that bacteria needs to get into the baby's gut to set up actually the gut and the digestive system and the actual immunity system of the baby. So we want the baby to lick their hands, and we want the baby to get all of that bacteria. We want the baby to inhale that bacteria as they're coming out, and this actually makes them healthier later on. And this is a lot of new research that's going on, because as the C-section rate increased, we started seeing all these childhood health issues increase. And it's like, you can just watch it go up. So we started looking for correlations. And there is a big correlation. So we were doing babies disservice by giving them baths. And the fact that, a C-section is safer for the baby than a vaginal delivery, we now know is absolutely wrong. The baby needs to come out the vagina if it's safe to do so.
Absolutely. Oh, that's wonderful. And we are so aligned. Part of what our mission is to help women optimize their bodies so they can have healthy vaginal deliveries, and not just vaginal deliveries. I also believe in reducing the risk of tearing.
Exactly.
And but yes, I mean, I think avoiding C-sections isn't just about helping our children. It's about helping ourselves grow and age and be healthy as we age.
Exactly.
Scar tissue has lasting effects on your whole entire body. And here, it's not necessarily common for a woman to have a C-section and then immediately get to therapy to help restore their bodies.
And, you know, people think, oh, I had major surgery. I have to go to bed for weeks and weeks and weeks. And people sometimes don't even think of C-section as major surgery. And it's major abdominal surgery. And it takes a year for their bodies to even start to get back where they were.
Yeah.
And with where the adhesions, where the tissues stick together, and it can interfere with breastfeeding. Women don't realize you can have pain from that for years or a lifetime to come.
Yeah.
And it sets you up for C-sections for the rest of your life, because in the state of Washington, it's illegal for us to do VBACs in the birth center right now, which I would really...
Is it illegal?
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was just not covered by insurance.
Nope, it's illegal.
Oh, that is such a bummer.
We cannot do nationally certified and state certified birth centers. Legally, we cannot do VBACs right now in this state because they are the increased risk of rupturing the uterus, because scar tissue's 20% weaker than the regular tissues of the uterus. But if you look at, we don't do anything in the birth center to increase the risk or the stress on the uterus like we would do in hospitals. So are we really
I didn't even think about that.
You know, so what we're doing is we just sit and watch and let your body do what your body's supposed to do. And I'm not giving you medication, or I'm not giving you pain medicine to mask it. We're up and we're moving. So I'm thinking, if you would look at it probably theoretically and in research, we would probably be a better spot to do a VBAC, because I'm not going to do anything to increase the risk of rupture like we would do in a hospital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's lovely. Do you do any home births?
Right now, I don't do home births. And people who do home births, great for them. Because coming from a hospital setting, I have this mindset that I like everything I do to be in the same place. So if there's an emergency, I can handle it very quickly. And the fact that I'm a half a block from, we could walk from our door into the door of labor and delivery to the neighboring hospital, and it's a block away. And I like having my security backup that close, because things don't go wrong in childbirth that often. But when they do go wrong, they go wrong very quickly.
Yeah.
So that's my comfort zone, but other people have other comfort zones, and that's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's so cool. Was that part of the decision in putting your center?
That was a very big decision in putting my birth center where I put it.
Nice. So as far as like just some, let's do a first-time mom. That would be an ideal client for your birth center, right?
Yes.
So how would they go about finding you, and B, making the decisions to birth with you?
We have a website that's empoweredpreg, PREG.com. We have a Facebook page. They can call us. We are listed under Empowered Pregnancy all over the internet. Our first-time moms, we actually give a complimentary 1-hour consultation. Okay. We take and we do a tour of the birth center, and we sit down and talk about what out-of-hospital birth really looks like. Because it's not right for everybody. Mm-hmm. And so we need to make sure that it is right for you, and you know that having a natural out-of-hospital birth, I refer to it, it's like running a marathon. And you don't get out of bed one day and say, I'm going to go run a marathon tomorrow, and have never run a day in your life. And that's the same thing about natural childbirth, especially out-of-hospital childbirth. You don't just want to all of a sudden say, yeah, I want to do natural childbirth, but I don't want to do anything for it. You have to be an active participant. So a first-time mom has to be willing to eat nutritiously. She has to be willing to exercise. We has to get that mindset that pregnancy is not an illness. pregnancy is not medical. Pregnancy is a state of life. And we discussed puberty is a state of life. Menopause is a state of life. That's what pregnancy is. It's not always fun, but it's not abnormal. And we're here as a team to help you get through that as easy as possible.
That's fantastic. Cool. So, you've been at your birth center for 6 months now, or
almost 9 months.
Almost 9 months. Okay, so coming on your first year anniversary. That's so exciting. Do you have another midwife with you? Or
Not right now.
They're working on the certification.
I have one who's looking at part-time until I get over consistently 6 deliveries a month.
Yeah,
I'm going to do it myself because the clients I have now are very attached to me, and I'm very attached to them. So I want to kind of make the promise that I will do this for you. And I like being I want to be big enough to pay the bills, but small enough to know everything about everybody, because I was in a practice that we grew too big too quick. It was a private practice. And I didn't feel like I was a midwife anymore. And that's another thing. I want to be able to say, how was your vacation? Or how was your mom's surgery? Or, what did your aunt find that new dress? Because I want to have that communication, because that's part of natural childbirth. Because if you don't feel comfortable with me and we don't know each other very well, it's hard to get through the process. I'm going to be there by your side the whole time. Mm-hmm. I'm a big advocate of doulas being there too, because we have very, very different roles. But you have to be very comfortable with me. And you have to trust me, because this is basically your life and your baby's life. And if you don't have that trust and that comfort, this isn't going to go. You're not going to be able to have a natural childbirth, because you need to be able to relax and know that I'm taking care of you.
Oh, I love that.
So that's all part of it.
Yeah.
So our appointments are an hour long.
Wow.
You're not in and out in 10 minutes. And I tell all of my clients that I can make sure you and your baby are healthy in 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. The other 55 minutes are for us to talk.
That's so lovely.
And it may be, let's talk about your vacation, or talk about the weather, or what you're anxious about, or what you're going to do. And that's all part of it. Because if you're not comfortable with your life, or if you're not comfortable with what's going on, and you can't let go of that, then you can't be present in the birthing process.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's amazing.
So that's a very big part of my philosophy.
I love it.
We have to know a lot about each other.
Yeah.
You're going to know as much about me as I'm going to know about you, because I believe in full transparency. Mm-hmm. I'm one of those providers that I open up your chart to you, so you see every word I write about you. You see every lab, everything that's come in, because I don't believe in hiding anything from my clients, because this is their life. Mm-hmm. And unlike I've seen other providers or things, I'm not good. They write things that they're afraid to let the client see.
Yeah.
Well, and if I have that impression, maybe I should stop and talk to her about that and say, hey, this is something I'm feeling. Let's talk about this.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so cool. So I imagine your outcomes are extremely good. You already mentioned the 4 to 6% of birth. You can't give that as a standard.
Right. Europe is 4%. Right now in the United States, it's 6%.
Do you track your own?
We are tracking our own.
Yeah. That's great. That's exciting. That's something I want to do here at Body Motion, just because we do help women optimize their bodies and train for labor and all the things. And so I'm obsessed with that idea of tracking it, so I can see the outcomes and how beneficial it is.
We do. We track all of our outcomes. We track how long moms were in labor. They were anything, interventions, and we also track how much weight did you gain? Mm-hmm. Did you really exercise? I'm a big proponent of you do Pilates and yoga from the day you meet me to the day you have your baby, because there's so much in the core that you have to do in childbirth, and there's so much in the core that pregnancy and the hormones try to take away from you, that if we don't keep those up and we don't keep you limber, and I believe in yoga type breathing through labor.
Me too. So like using diaphragmatic breathing.
That's exactly what we do.
Yes, that's what we train as well. Just so the diaphragm assists the uterus.
Exactly.
I mean, really.
And it's relaxing.
Yeah.
And yoga teaches you to breathe through pain, to get deeper into the poses. So that's exactly what we use in childbirth, because contractions build on each other.
Yeah.
And if I can make it through this contraction, I can add a little bit more and make it and add a little bit more, to where all of my moms at the end of the day will not tell you it was pain-free, but they'll tell you it was doable and it was enjoyable, and it was a very empowering experience.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
It warms my heart to hear that you think that way and that you teach that, because that's what we teach too, for all the physiological reasons.
Yes.
And mental tolerance, yes, and decreasing vagal stimulation. All this stuff, increasing vagal stimulation. Yeah. But like, it's just all, yeah. So my heart is so warm hearing you say that. So thank you.
We start all of our childbirth classes with doing a mindful meditation and breathing, because I really think with childbirth, we want you to be present, and we try to bring in the partner, to bring just the energy between the partner and mom and the baby, and just showing them how to meditate and be mindful, and the three of them to become one. And then we use a lot of that. Then we use that energy during the birthing process, because I tell their partner, you need to be touching them almost all the time, because they need your energy to feed off of. So we practice that a lot.
So lovely. So lovely. I can't even believe I'm hearing this from... it's amazing to hear that there's a healthcare provider, a midwife, that actually truly believes this wholeheartedly. So it's warming my heart so much. You have no idea.
What our very first mom, and she was younger, and her labor was... she was ruptured for almost 38 hours, and we did massage and acupressure and acupuncture and to get her in labor. So she was up for almost 48 hours, a long, just slow, drawn-out labor. And near the end, her doula, she was curled up in a ball in the middle of our bed. Her doula was curled over the top of her, and her husband was curled at the bottom, and she had his two hands clutched in hers right on her heart. And through transition, through the last hour, the room was silent, and she just sat there and breathed until it was, and I just watched that, and I'm like, this is the power of energy and of love, and it was just the most amazing thing to witness. And this got her through that last little push. She would have never made it in a hospital. She would have ended up a C-section. And we had the most beautiful little baby, and it finally got to the point, she was finally feeling pressure, and she pushed probably 20 minutes. And we had this baby, but to witness that, I was just in awe to see that she was exhausted, but they just gave her the energy to get past that last little push and to have this beautiful baby.
Oh, it sounds magical to birth at your birth center.
I'm
going to have to come see it.
You will.
It sounds like it's a spa day. It sounds like it's a relaxation, just facilitating everything that we know helps with labor. I think it's so beautiful how you're explaining this, and any mom listening to this should go check you out. This is so great. Yeah. So you mentioned you threw in a few things, other services you guys have there. So you have childbirth education.
Yes,
lovely.
Our childbirth education is very different than any other type of childbirth education, because I've been doing this for over 25 years. And there's all kind of different classes, and people are busy nowadays. Yeah. And people have very busy lives, so you don't have time to set in a 2-hour class 6 or 8 times throughout the pregnancy. So I've taken everything you need to know and condensed it into classes. And our first class, we do 2 3-hour classes on Saturday, and the first class is actually, I teach the anatomy and physiology of the last 4 weeks of pregnancy and childbirth, and nobody ever really talks to you about that. Because my whole goal is, if I tell you what's going on in your body and what to expect, then people can say, this happened, and Kim told me this was going to happen. So it's not as scary, and you don't panic. And they're like, so she told me in about a day I should expect this. Yep, that happened. And they come in and tell me, and they said, okay, I've watched this, and this happen exactly how you told me it is. And so they're prepared.
Yeah.
And childbirth is a scary thing, but knowledge prepares you. And so when these things happen, they're like, oh yeah, Kim told me that was going to happen. This is normal. And Kim told me that was going to happen. And I tell their partners, so their partners aren't freaking out and scared. They're like, oh yeah, Kim told us this was going to happen, and we have plenty of time. And then our second childbirth class I teach with our massage therapist. And we go, okay, we talked about this was going to happen. What are we going to do to get through it? And it's hands-on with dads on mom, because I don't know if you've ever noticed, but most dads and most men are very heavy-handed when it comes to massage. Mm-hmm. And pregnant women don't like that. So we will mimic on them and then have them do it to mom and say, okay, either go slower or touch softer. This is where you want to touch. This is how you want to touch. And we go through early labors, through the different points of labor. And we go through a lot of acupuncture techniques, a lot of pressure points on the back. And we're like, okay, mom can be in this position. This is what you do. Or if mom's in this position and at different parts of pregnancy, what to do. Because it's better if mom does or dad does it or the partner does it than me and the doula, because that's a much more comforting touch. And moms and dads love it, because one couple who went through an 8-week session and did our 2 weeks, they said, we didn't use anything from that class, but every single thing you taught us, we used. So we want it to be a very useful class.
Oh, that's so
and
great.
It's very hands-on. So, and we try to but we get the partner as involved as possible. And as long as everything goes fine, I teach the partner how to catch the baby.
Oh, wow.
So far, all of our dads have helped catch the baby. So basically, their hands are with my hands, and after I get one of the shoulders out, I just hold the bottom of the perineum and let go and say, it's yours. Because my thought is, I shouldn't be the first person to touch this baby. It's not my baby. It's their baby. So I always tell people my motto is, I want you to be caught in the hands of love. Mm-hmm. Your dad loves you, or your spouse loves you, your mom loves you. So we let mom can do. So I want them to be the first people to touch their baby, not me.
Kim, I've never even heard of a provider speaking like this.
So
that is just really, really cool.
Yeah, the anatomy and physiology class, just like I learned in midwifery school, I go through, okay, this is what we're going to do, this is how I'm going to help you, this is where I may say, oh, hold on a minute, I have to get a cord. And I said, my job there is to, a taxi cab driver can deliver a baby. Yeah. My job's there to keep the perineum looking pretty and get the top shoulder out, then the rest is all up to you, because a lot of the times the babies do just slide out.
Yeah, that's so lovely. So thank you for sharing that. As far as services, you said you have massage service as well. Great. So I assume you guys do prenatal, postpartum care.
We have our massage therapist is actually one of the very few in the area that is certified to do breast and infant massage.
Wonderful.
And the breast massage has been great because our moms are not having trouble with milk supply. They're not having trouble with mastitis or clogged ducts. So we do teach a breastfeeding class that I teach with our massage therapist. So I do a lot of the physical stuff. This is how you breastfeed. This is what you do. Then she goes and shows how to do massage, and we talk about different things and different problems. So our goal is to really if you can breastfeed for 2 weeks, you can breastfeed forever. So we really give a lot of tips about how to get through the first 2 weeks of breastfeeding, and then I offer lactation consultations.
Oh, nice.
So we do 1 hour appointments that you can come in, and I sit down and work with mom and baby, because my goal is to really help moms feel comfortable with breastfeeding.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so great. What a cool thing you're creating over there. I can't wait to see it. So can people take your classes without birthing at your birth center? Okay.
They can take our classes. You can actually sign up for the classes online.
Okay.
So under our webpage, and there is a calendar of when our classes are. And we just started, we're hosting expectant new parent groups, because they have a lot of groups for new moms, but they don't have a lot of groups for moms who are currently pregnant. So our group is combining both. So you can come in while you're still pregnant, or if you have an infant under the age of a year, so they can learn from each other. And then we're going to bring in community support people to give like little 30-minute talks about different things, and then just let moms learn from each other. Because you get more support from somebody going through it than from a professional sitting here telling you the statistics or how it's normally done.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'd love to come and be your pelvic floor speaker.
Exactly. That's what we want. And then, you know, I can tell you things about breastfeeding, but then their moms can say, well, at 3 a.m, this really works the best for me. Why don't you try this? Right. Or, you know, this is the best bra I found, or this is the best deal on the internet. Yeah. Because they're the ones who know that stuff.
Right.
So it is the first and third Wednesday of the month from 10:30 to noon. Oh. So free of charge. Anybody's welcome.
Wow, that is so cool, and how special.
So I call it a women's wellness and education center because I just believe women just don't have enough support. Mm-hmm. They don't have enough education, and when I was in private practice, I would prescribe just as many antidepressants as I did birth control pills. And if you really sat down and talked to them, they're not depressed. They're anxious, or they have unrealistic expectations because society shows us Princess Kate walking out of the hospital 12 hours later looking beautiful, but they don't show you all the nannies and all the nurses and everybody she's going home to. So women think, this is what I have to live up to, and it's not. Yeah. And so I tell it as it is. Yeah. You know, I set realistic expectations. I tell them, postpartum sucks. The last part of pregnancy sucks, and you need to know that. And as long as you know that, you can get through it and know that what you're feeling is normal and you're not the abnormal person out there. Princess Kate is the less than 1%. You are the norm.
Yeah. And only the less than 1% visually after composed, probably behind those hidden doors, right? We all know what's happening.
Yeah, we know, but you know what we see is what we see on TV. Absolutely. And all these women think they have. Yeah, that is not true.
Right, absolutely.
So people don't watch the baby story because you forget to look at the clock. All you see is I have a contraction, ow, I go in the hospital, ow, my water breaks, I push twice and I have a baby. You don't pay attention that maybe this was 3 days later.
Yes. Oh, that's wonderful. So where are you guys heading? What's your mission? What's your vision? Share it all.
You know, if I could win the lottery and had a couple $1 million, my vision, my true vision is for my birth center on the Upper East Side to make enough money that I could build a birth center in South Seattle where it's really needed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's wonderful.
So, I mean, that would be my goal.
Yeah.
But you have to have money to pay the bills.
Yep.
And insurance, I would love to see insurance reform for the fact that they reimburse birth centers for what they do. They'll pay hospitals, but they don't want to pay birth centers, and we're saving them money.
Right.
Because we're not having C-sections. Our patients are breastfeeding. Our patients don't have postpartum depression.
Yeah.
They're not having postpartum hemorrhages. They're not having infections. And at the end of the day, we're cheaper to deliver at, but we're also cheaper in the long run because we're decreasing all these disparities. And to get people to realize that, and to get insurance companies and maybe our politicians and people who, kind of a pet peeve of mine is everybody's let's decrease the money spent on healthcare, let's decrease the money spent on healthcare. And then the next breath, United States has the worst maternal fetal outcomes in the world, and we spend more money on maternal fetal medicine, but we don't want to pay the people who are actually doing something to decrease these.
Yeah.
So kind of getting the word out there that, you know what, I know how to decrease the cost of healthcare. Yeah. I know how to decrease maternal fetal medicine disparities. You just have to give us a platform to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we preach the same.
Yes.
The mission driven by the same reason, really. So that's so lovely to hear from you. Thank you. As far as, I love your mission and your vision, but as far as, is there anything else I haven't asked you?
Anything else?
That you would love to share?
A big catchword now is physiological childbirth. But most women do not know what physiological childbirth is. And basically, physiological childbirth is saying, we're going to let your body do what your body was made to do until I find some reason not to. So I'm not going to put you on some time clock that was set up 200 years ago by looking at 50 women. We're going to let you, if your water breaks, great. We'll watch you for infection. If I see an infection, then I need to intervene. I always give my mom the choice, though. We can sit and watch. These are the statistics of how long it will take you to go into labor or your chances of going labor. You can go to the hospital now and be induced, perfectly fine with that. Or we can sit and watch.
Yeah.
And I just let them know, if I see certain things in your baby, or if you start to run a fever, if I see certain things, then it's time to intervene, or then it's time to go to the hospital. But until then, it's your decision where we birth at. Some women, early labor can be anywhere from 2 hours to 2 days, literally. And that's up to mom. Mm-hmm. What do you want to do? We can do things to help you. But as long as you're great, baby's great, we don't need to intervene. Yeah. So why should you be put on a time clock by how somebody else had their babies? Mm-hmm. So we sat back, sat on your hands, and I read an article in midwifery school called, it was called The Art of Midwifery, Doing Nothing. And so I always have to sometimes, when I'm like, want to do something, think, wait a minute, do I really need to be doing this? My other big thing is, are we doing it for the convenience of the patient or for the convenience of the provider? And so much in medicine is done for the convenience of the provider. And my whole goal is, we're doing everything for the convenience of our patients. So we have Saturday hours, we have nighttime hours. If you need things, if you need me to come in a day off because that's your day off, that's what I'm going to do, because I'm trying to change healthcare, that it's actually taking care of the patient, not the provider. So that's one of my, that's a big mission, because I've taken things I've seen over the last 25 years that I didn't like, or things that I could tell patients didn't like and they had no control over it, or how the medical society treats women, mm-hmm. or treats pregnant women, and I'm like, what can I do to change that?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so lovely. Are you accepting new clients?
We are. We are accepting new clients.
Fantastic. Do you do any, you mentioned women's health. I know you have a background in women's health as beyond midwifery. Do you do any care for women? Oh, you do? Okay.
I do. I can take care of you from puberty to death.
Awesome.
So I do full women's health care. Awesome. I can be your primary care provider to a point. Mm-hmm. You can do your yearly physicals. If you have an ear infection or a cold or things like that,
yes,
you can come into me. If you develop diabetes I couldn't control with diet, I'm going to send you somewhere else. Wonderful. Or high blood pressure and things like that. But I can be basically, my goal is to keep you healthy.
Cool.
And as long as you're healthy, I can be your gatekeeper. Awesome. And send you on. So basically, my goal is to bring you in as a client and keep you for life.
Cool. And so you'll manage birth controls?
Yes.
Do you do any pessary fittings?
I do not do pessary fittings.
Just curious.
That I have gone through some classes. That is a very specialized skill. Yeah. And if you don't know how to do it or monitor it right, you can. People don't realize you can really cause some problems. Yes. So I haven't done it enough to feel comfortable saying that I can do this right, but I do think they're, especially for older women or women trying to get to that point where they can have surgery, pessaries are great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they definitely have a role. So.
Do you guys do pessaries here?
No, PTs in the U.S. aren't allowed to. In Canada they are, but not here. So we are not allowed to fit pessaries. So we refer out for them. But they're not effective if you don't have a good coordinated pelvic floor or have dysfunction. So
exactly.
So we always start conservative, and if we have to go through.
I mean, PTs are the people who should be doing it anyway.
I couldn't agree more, but yeah, thank you. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing with us.
Because this has been great.
Yeah, I'm sure that many women will hear this on the podcast and jump on. Yeah, so we'll put your information in the show notes. And thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, and if you're pregnant, wanting to become pregnant, just come and do a tour. Or if you just want to know more about us, just give us a call, or we're happy to sit down and talk to you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kim.
Welcome.